welcome back to the Comp Closet podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah Priestley, and today's episode is actually a little bit of a different one. If you have listened to this podcast before, you know that I usually sit down with incredible competitors and experts in the industry to share their journeys, share their experience, and share their knowledge with you. But over the last year or the last 2 years since I've started this podcast, I've had quite a few people asking me what my story is. So today I wanted to share my journey from being someone who was absolutely terrified of stepping in the gym to stepping on stage to eventually going pro and competing internationally. And the reason I want to share this is because I truly believe that nobody starts as a bodybuilder. Nobody just starts out 100% confident. It's something that you build with time and patience and consistency and guidance. And my story definitely didn't start on a bodybuilding stage. My journey actually started during one of the hardest periods of my life. I was in my first year of university. I must have been 19 years old. And that year I actually had some pretty serious health issues. So I had multiple surgeries within that year. I lost my dad in a car accident, and I was definitely tied up in the drinking culture at uni. So I was restricting during the week and then really binge eating on the weekends and binge drinking. I was a top level student. Like, I was really doing well in all of my classes. I would study in all of my spare time. I was working like a part-time job as well. So I was definitely busy, but pretty much Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, sometimes more, I would go out drinking with my friends. I would, as I said, restrict my food during the week. I had really poor body image and I just really wanted to lose body fat. So I'd try going for runs. I'd kind of try going to the gym, but I was so scared. I had no idea what I was doing. Obviously going through a lot emotionally with the health issues and with losing dad as well. So I really was in not a great place. I was gaining weight, especially post surgery, not moving, and just felt really unhealthy and disconnected from my body. I grew up riding horses to quite a high level, competed, and I was a hockey goalie as well for a lot of my life up until I went to university. But I was never into the gym or gymnastics or dance or out there, I guess, with any kind of sports like that or knowing what I was doing in the gym. And eventually I reached a turning point. I had seen a few people achieve these weight loss transformations on Instagram, and I ended up getting my first coach to sign up for a 90-day challenge, and Julie Mack, who's actually one of my closest friends now. But she was absolutely incredible. So she was an online coach for me, did me a meal plan, training program, and that's the first time I ever had something to really stick to. And I think mentally, when I was going through a tough time and with body image and just not knowing what I should do, I was really looking for something that I could cling on to. So this was actually after university that I started this. So I must have been in my very early 20s. And I decided to just fully commit to this 90-day challenge. And I thought maybe I'll have a coach for 90 days and that'll be it. I fully committed to it. I did not miss a training session. I did not miss a single step. So it's the first time I'd been consistent in the gym with training, the first time I'd ever actually tracked all of my food and consistently eaten in a calorie deficit rather than binging and restricting throughout the week and eating all the food on the weekend. I fully cut out alcohol for the first time for 90 days, probably since I turned 18 and could legally drink. And yeah, like I said, I lost 8 kilos and I felt absolutely incredible. And I just fell in love with the process of committing to something and getting results. I was definitely terrified in the gym when I first started. Like, I can remember like sneakily watching little YouTube videos, figuring out what to do into the gym, and walking into the gym for the first time was honestly terrifying. But with consistency, I slowly got over that. I would just put my headphones on, figure out what my exercises for the day were, watch videos. And I saw a few people at the time, like after that challenge on Instagram competing. And this was in the era of like Rachel Dillon, and she was in her prime. My coach was competing at the time. And I thought that was so cool. But I also kind of in the back of my mind was like, oh, that's not me. Like, I'm a farm girl. I grew up on lifestyle block in New Zealand. I'm used to wearing gumboots and sneakers, heels. Like I've never been on stage in front of people, let alone in a bikini. Like I'd only just gotten confidence to wear my bikini at the beach, let alone on stage in front of thousands of people. But then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it's something about it just stuck with me. And at the point, I had no idea what was actually involved in bodybuilding. And that's the time when I started following a whole lot of competitors on Instagram. I started sort of watching all these YouTube videos, these YouTube vlogs of people prepping and understanding a little bit more about, I guess, what was involved. I think you don't fully know what's involved until you go through it yourself. But I started understanding maybe how long people prep for, what different federations there were out there. And I was really interested in it was WBFF at the time. Now I'm an FMG pro. But I realized it might actually be possible. So I spoke to Julie at the time and we discussed going into a bit of a build phase to build a bit more muscle because I had like no muscle. So for the first time ever, we increased my calories. I went into a build phase. It was scary, intentionally eating more and intentionally gaining weight, but learned to love the feeling of getting bigger, fuller glutes, of actually growing, actually getting stronger in the gym and actually eating more food. I really, really did love that. And then I decided, you know what? I can't stop thinking about competing. I'm just going to commit to it. I definitely didn't feel ready. I didn't feel ready to step on stage, but I just knew it's something that I had to do. It scared me. And that's the main reason I wanted to do it. I really like doing things that scare me because they help me to grow, basically. So I had a consult call with Alicia Kyrgios, who is now my coach. She's been my coach for about 5 years for all of my shows, off seasons, nonstop, has been my coach the whole way through. And yeah, I started with her straight away. And then we started prepping for the BFF New Zealand show. And I think we started prep at around 16 weeks out. And then I had been on prep for 10 weeks. And at 6 weeks out, the show was cancelled due to COVID. Ended up prepping for another show that was also cancelled. So I had multiple cancelled shows. After that first cancelled show, I was like, this is the end of the world. I'm just not meant to compete. What was the point of this whole 10-week prep? Like it felt like I had committed to this thing, it was just taken away from me. And then the second time it happened, I was like, okay, I'm just destined to not compete. I'm just going to give up. But Ali talked me into doing a build phase and kind of reflected on the fact that I'm going to look back and be happy that the shows were actually cancelled because it gave me more time to build more muscle and practice posing. And yeah, basically we went into a build phase. I committed again to building muscle, getting calories high, and really started changing my shape the whole way through from the day I decided to compete. I started posing. I got into posing by buying a pair of secondhand heels off Facebook Marketplace. They were bordellos. And I started watching YouTube videos of people posing and I would just copy them. And I'd just wear my heels around the house when I was like brushing my teeth and things like that. I was not used to wearing heels at all. I was like a little Bambi, so uncoordinated, but I would practice every single day in my heels. I think I probably practiced for like 18 months in my heels before I ended up stepping on stage because of those cancelled shows. Then when I was on a build phase, we actually ended up moving from New Zealand to Sydney. And eventually, finally, the time came. So I prepped for the, I think it was 2022 Gold Coast WBFF at the time show, the April show. And that was a 14-week prep from memory. So we started, I think, in January, competed in April. And it was a really good prep because I had done those previous preps for the cancelled shows, but I was still so scared that something was going to take that away from me. Like I wasn't going to be able to compete. I was so scared I was going to get injured or the show was going to get cancelled because of COVID or something was going to happen and I wasn't going to be able to do the show. That was like my biggest fear because of the other cancelled shows. But we made it through that prep. It was a great prep. I, again, fully committed to everything apart from recovery. That was not a priority for me. It is now on preps, but everything else I was 100% committed to. And my goal for that show was to just one, make it to the show and actually get on stage, and two, place top 10. Because in FMG or WBFF, basically you do your own routine. So like your T-walk, there's no set posing or anything that you have to do. You just have to basically do poses that fit your physique and fit your category. So show your physique off the best you can for your category. So you do a T-walk where you walk forward, do a few poses, walk to the other side, do a few poses, do a few poses on the other side. So that's like your own choreographed thing. And then you have comparison round posing. So the judges will watch everyone's T-walks, and then everyone goes to the back of the stage and they'll call forward the top 10 for comparison round posing. And I had practiced my comparison round posing so much that I was like, my goal is to get top 10 so that I can do my comparison round posing. Otherwise, it's just a waste practicing it that much. And I was so excited that I got called forward in the top 10. So after the morning show, I was just ecstatic. I knew that I was in the top 10 because I was called forward to do that comparison round posing in the first group. It was a huge lineup. When I first stepped on stage, I was terrified. I swear I blacked out. I was shaking. I'd practiced my posing so much though in my head and in person that I managed to get through my routine. And then as soon as I'd done my T-walk, I felt a lot more confident. So when I did my comparison round posing, I actually felt really good. And when I came back for the night show, I was much more confident again. It was honestly like the day went so fast and I just loved it. I loved it. And I was so surprised because I didn't come from like a dance or gymnastics or performance background at all. I thought I would hate the actual show day because I'm not like a sparkly girly girl. And I loved the process. I knew I would love the process of getting to the stage, like the prep, but I actually loved show day so much. It just felt like this big celebration of all the hard work I had put in, and I finally made it to that stage after multiple cancelled preps and years of preparing for the show. And I actually ended up placing 5th, which top 5 in my first show in a massive lineup. I was so happy with that. The judges' feedback was that I needed a little bit more size through my glutes and my hamstrings, but they loved my tiny waist and they thought I had a really good look for the bikini category. And that's when I realized maybe I could actually be competitive in the sport. I honestly thought I would do one show and be done because I didn't think I would like show day. Like I said, I loved the show day and I loved the process. And once I had done kind of well and gotten that judge's feedback, I was like, I need to improve on this package. Like I need to do more. And my coach was like, hey, we could actually do the Sydney show, which is in August. So it was currently April, and we had that conversation, I think the day or 2 days after the show. And she's like, you know what, we do have time to do a short reverse, an intense build phase, and then do a shortcut coming into the Sydney stage. So that's what we did. We did a reverse. We actually brought my calories right back up to maintenance, and then I went into a slight surplus for a intense build phase. When I say intense, like we slammed my glutes and hamstrings for weeks, and then did a shortcut. I think the prep was 7 or 8 weeks. It got a little bit leaner than the last show, and I think I still had newbie gains because the first like couple of years of training in the gym, I was still learning. I wasn't really training with intensity or like properly. So I made really good progress with, time under tempo, proper activations, proper intensity, training to failure, and having that strong glute and hamstring focus on my program. So came back with some big improvements. And it was a stacked lineup. And again, I felt more confident than I did last time, still a little bit shaky on stage, but more confident. My posing had improved again. And I felt a lot more relaxed coming into show day because I kind of knew what to expect with hair and makeup and backstage and all that kind of thing. And we were living in Sydney, so it was a local show as well. And I actually ended up placing 2nd, and first place got a pro card. So that was the moment I realized I might actually be able to go pro, which was crazy in my mind because I had seen all these incredible women that I followed that were pros, watching them, and they were like vision board material. I never thought I would be one of those girls again. I was just this farm girl from New Zealand, not a bodybuilder or a bikini competitor, let alone a pro. But that was the moment when I came 2nd, and I was so close to going pro that it's, within arm's reach. And I was like, okay, now I really want to go pro. Like I want more. And because I was so close, my coach was like, you know what? Let's go to Texas. That's the next show. So we decided to go to Texas. At the time, I was working full-time in Sydney, and I had just competed in 2 shows. And as you know, competing is expensive. So I was like, okay, I need to get to Texas somehow. Luckily at the time, there was work that I could do over there. So partially it was funded by work. Like I visited a few manufacturers and things there, but I also had to pay for my flights. So I actually sold my car to pay for flights. don't recommend, but we did what we needed to make it happen. That was the next show on the calendar. So I went to Texas and I just wore the same bikini as I wore to the Sydney show to reduce the costs. And I ended up winning my pro card. And that moment was just so incredible. It was like all of my hard work for all of those years just flashed before my eyes. And that's when I realized that, all of it was worth it. Like that delayed gratification, all those hard moments were so, so worth it. And I felt like I had made it. I remember sitting on the plane on the way home and just thinking about that moment over and over, like replaying it in my head, like winning my pro card. And yeah, it was just like so proud and incredible moment. And then after that, I went and watched I think it was the October Gold Coast show. And I watched the pros on stage. And at that moment, I was like, holy shit, I've gone from the top of the amateurs to, winning my pro card, coming second and then coming first and, being best of the best in the amateur lineup to all of a sudden like bottom of the pack for the pro lineup. Like I knew I had work to do. I needed to grow again, of course, my glutes, and pretty much grow all over and improve my posing, improve my presentation, everything to step on that pro stage to be competitive. That was kind of a moment I realized, okay, I'm like a small little goldfish in this big sea of sharks now. Like you've gone from the top to the bottom really overnight. So I fully committed to a big 2-year build phase. I did no shows. I fully just focused on improving my physique, building muscle. I learned patience. I leaned into being uncomfortable. It was one of the hardest parts, I think, of bodybuilding is the build phase, especially a long build phase like that, because when you're in a build phase, you often look worse than you are in a cut. Pretty much all of us do. And you can't see the progress day to day. You've got more body fat. So you might be able to feel yourself getting stronger, your sleep's a bit better, and you generally have more energy. But when you're in a cut and when you're prepping, you can see that progress week to week and sometimes even day to day. And people are commenting to you and interacting with your Instagram content saying you look incredible. Wow, like incredible progress. You look amazing. But that physique is built in the build phase. Like it's called bodybuilding for a reason. You have to commit to the build phase. And I learned so much in that build phase about fueling. I got my calories way up over 3,000 for a long period of time. I was focusing on sleep. I was just fully committed to everything I could do to build that muscle and make improvements for the pro stage. And then my pro debut was actually on the Gold Coast. So after a 2-year build phase, did a big 6-month prep for the Gold Coast show. And yeah, that was my pro debut. I brought a way improved package compared to my pro card winning package. And I managed to get top 10 in the Gold Coast show. I did bikini and bikini athletic category because 2 weeks out from the show, we were just going to do bikini, but I was so lean. We have to get so lean through my upper body to get my legs to come in that my coach was like, you know what, let's try bikini athletic as well. So I was a bit small on the bikini athletic stage, but the judges actually liked my frame and my conditioning for bikini athletic. So then I was kind of at this awkward in-between stage between the two categories, but was so proud of the package I brought. There's a few little things I didn't love about that show day package. Like my makeup was not the best and my tan was way too light. And also we didn't quite have enough carbs for my peak. But then I competed 1 week later in the Dubai show. We had a new peaking strategy. I did an extra layer of tan. We made some tweaks to my posing based on how I was looking on stage and to really play on my strengths and hide my weaknesses. And like I said, way more carbs. Like we carved up with, I think I had oats in the morning and then I had a massive thing of fries, like hot chips with honey drizzled all over it. I had a full sugar Gatorade. I had lollies. I had rice cakes, sour worms, like you name it. I had so many carbs before I stood on stage and I just looked 100 times better, like way fuller physique. So made massive improvements in 1 week just by making tweaks with my coach and that darker tan and the posing tweaks. And I actually ended up placing second in bikini. So Tani won, she's the current world champion. And then I placed third in bikini athletic as well. So getting 2 podium finishes on the pro stage in my first season as a pro, I was just absolutely ecstatic and mainly proud of those improvements that we made. After that, again, I got my judges' feedback and went into another big build phase. So I built for, must have been 18 months to really we really wanted to long-term grow into the bikini athletic categories because I have, I'm tall, I'm 173 centimeters tall, and I have quite a long, lean physique. I can get very conditioned. We decided, okay, let's push long term for bikini athletics. So we've really focused on bringing up my delts, my back, whilst also growing like my quads, glutes, hamstrings all over, but really bringing up that upper body to have that X frame for bikini athletic. So we'll see how that looks on stage because I'm currently 7.5 weeks out from the FMG Gold Coast show, and it must be, 7.5 weeks out from the FMG Italy show. So the original plan was to just do Italy, and then the Gold Coast show is 4 weeks before FMG Italy, and I was not going to do it because we wanted to push my build phase as long as possible, and I wanted to have a holiday in Italy afterwards. That's why I chose that show. It just looks incredible. But because I am ahead of schedule in prep, like I think I'm about 2 kilos ahead of schedule compared to the map that my coach has for me, we decided actually we can do the Gold Coast show as well. So super excited to step on stage on home turf, really, because I'm living in Brisbane now, as a bit of a warm-up show. And then we'll do FMG Italy as like the true peak, proper, full conditioning. And, every season there's always room to improve. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. And every season I have learned how to fully lean into that build phase to implement on that judge's feedback. And when you lean into that build phase and then you start cutting down, my gosh, it makes the cut easier because you start on higher calories and you have more muscle. So you can diet with less cardio and higher calories, which every prep gets easier. But also, like, it's like unwrapping a Christmas present. You can see this progress that you've made from your build phase, and it's just incredible. So satisfying and so worth it. I think one of the things that I didn't realize getting into bodybuilding is that everyone romanticizes show day. Like when you first start researching about bodybuilding or bikini comps, you see all of this content on Instagram or you see all of these vlogs on YouTube. And a lot of competitors only share content really close to the stage or on show day. So show day is really romanticized. It's like this big, incredible thing, which it is this big, incredible thing. But as a bodybuilder, like, you're building for 6, 12, 18, 24 months to build this muscle and then step on stage after a, 4 to 6 month prep. Show day is only one day. So the real sport is in building muscle, and it is in that structure and routine that you have in your everyday life. It really, really is a lifestyle that requires consistency. It's about the years that you spend to build that physique. The people that you see do really well in this sport are the people that are patient and consistent over a long period of time, like years. They step on stage, they get feedback, they implement on that feedback. They take the time away from the stage and commit to making those improvements. And then they step back on stage again, they get the feedback and then they step away and they improve. People that do that continuously and take that time and have that patience and stick with a coach consistently in all seasons, the build, the reverse, the prep, those are the people that get incredible results. And bodybuilding has honestly changed my life. The biggest thing that's impact for me is my mindset and my confidence. So going into it, I was not confident. I didn't believe I could do these big, hard things. But through consistently showing up for myself, consistently keeping promises to myself, consistently putting myself into uncomfortable situations and exceeding the expectations that I have for myself and, getting into uncomfortable phases and pushing through those and having that long-term delayed gratification, then having that pay off has just proven that I can achieve so much. And that has paid off into other areas of my life, like quitting my full-time job to build my successful business and like starting a podcast and doing all of these scary things that I otherwise wouldn't have done if I hadn't built that resilience and confidence in myself that I built through competing. And also the people that you meet through competing is incredible. It takes a special kind of person to commit to a comp prep, decide to do it in the first place, and then to actually commit to the prep and see it through and step on stage and do that repeatedly. Like it really does take a special kind of person. And the people that compete are just incredible. I've made some of my best friends through competing, and a lot of the people that compete also, have businesses or other big aspirations in life because they're just that type of person. So it is really incredible. The network that you meet through competing is just life-changing. And that's why I actually started the Comp Closet because, competing took me from this dark place in my life where I really was struggling mentally. I was struggling with body image. I was struggling with confidence. I had no real direction or big aspirations to now running my own business, competing on international stages, traveling for work, getting brand deals, growing my social media. It's made me able to do all of these incredible things and really, really has changed my life. And I almost didn't do it because I found it hard financially. It is expensive, and I couldn't find the resources on what it actually would cost or what information I needed to compete or what the timelines were, or I didn't really realize the stories of people who competed themselves. You see all these pros and all of these incredible competitors, but you don't know that they actually came from maybe a similar background to you, or they actually went through adversities before getting to stage as well. So that's why I started the Comp Closet online marketplace to help people with the cost of competing, buying and selling pre-loved stage wear. I also have the free cost planner to help people with understanding what the costs are and what areas they can save in. So I will link that below. And I also started the podcast to share stories and show what is possible with competing and to help people who are going through preps to feel less alone and more of part of a community and get tips and tricks to make the whole process easier. And if you are a first time competitor, I have 3 key pieces of advice for you. The first one is if you can't stop thinking about competing, just try it. Just give it a go. I'm not saying try it right now, but definitely explore it. So I would recommend talking to a coach first. That is my next piece of advice, so that they can help you with a realistic timeline, let you know how much muscle development you need, help you with a category choice, maybe even a federation choice. You can go and watch a few shows and then you can, work backwards from that timeline. So they might say, okay, it's going to take you a year to build the muscle you need and then 6 months to prep. So okay, in 18 months, this federation has these shows. I'm going to select a show to work towards, and then you can work backwards from that timeline. You can work out your budget using the Comp Closet cost planner, and you can start saving. You can start, working out how you're going to make that comp work. And then my next one is to build habits first. So if you're wanting to step into a comp prep, but you're not currently tracking food, or you're not training consistently, or you're not hitting steps, you're not tracking your sleep, prep is going to be so, so hard. It'll make prep 1,000,000 times easier if you build these habits first. So start tracking your food consistently, start training consistently, start tracking your steps and hitting those consistently, and track your sleep and hit that consistently. If you have all of these key habits, then when you go into prep, it's literally just turning up the dial. My build phase is not that different to my prep. I might be hitting 8,000 steps in a build phase. On prep, I turn that dial up and I hit 12,000. Training, I'm training 4 to 5 days a week in a build phase. Same with prep. It's just slightly different how the training looks. Tracking food, I track most of my food in a build phase as well. In a prep, I'm just tracking less food. So I'm eating at a calorie deficit instead of a surplus. And sleep year round is a key habit for me. So if prep is not that different to your everyday lifestyle, it's going to be so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And I touched on this a little bit before. I mentioned I did not focus on recovery and sleep in my first prep. Sleep is so important because it affects fat loss, it affects muscle retention, it affects performance, posing, and same with recovery. So it must be a priority. 7 to 8 hours of sleep at least every single night. Work out what routine works for you and just make that work. For me, having a cold bedroom, having a bedtime that is pretty much the same every night within 30 minutes, not sleeping with my phone in the bedroom. I haven't had my phone in the bedroom for probably over a year, apart from when I'm traveling. And when I'm traveling, I ended up, going down a scrolling doom scroll on my phone and sleeping much later. So having your phone out of the bedroom really helps. Get yourself an alarm clock. And supplements that can help as well is magnesium. And I also take sleep aid from Emerald Labs, which tastes incredible. I have the chocolate snooze flavor. Absolutely love it on prep. So I will link that down below. And it honestly gives me the best sleeps and the best recovery scores, which I track on my Whoop. And then in terms of recovery, focus on this in prep. Your body doesn't recover as well when you're in a calorie deficit. So whether it's getting a monthly massage, whether it's regular infrared saunas, stretching every day, doing your mobility, foam rolling, giving yourself every opportunity you can to recover. Because if your body isn't sore, you're going to train better, you're going to pose better, you'll look better in your poses, and you'll just feel better overall and just get way better performance throughout prep. If there is one thing that I hope you take away from this episode, it's that nobody starts as a pro. I didn't come from a fitness background. I was scared of the gym. I had never worn heels. I had no idea what I was doing. I was honestly terrified. But with the right guidance, with patience, and with consistency, you can build something incredible. And that's exactly why I love sharing these stories on the Comp Closet podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please don't forget to follow and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it on. Share it to your stories, tag me, let me know what you learned, or send me a message if you have any questions as well. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening.